Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So, that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you to a special bonus episode today. Today, I'm talking with Lea Anne Borders about summer reading fun and preventing summer slide reading loss. Lea Anne is the founder and CEO of Bookelicious, a platform that uses cutting-edge technology to match kids with the books they'll love, helping them build strong reading identities and inspiring them to read more, a mission that I also share here on the podcast. We'll talk about the importance of summer reading, the innovative way Bookelicious works, and how all of us can gear up for a great summer reading season. So without further ado, let's just get right to the episode. Lea Anne, welcome to KidLit Love. I am so glad you're here today.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. I have been a fan of Bookelicious since probably the beginning. I think I heard about you pretty quickly. I love your mission. I love your philosophy. I love your bookmojis. I can't wait to talk about all the things today. But first, of course, I would love to talk about you. Could you introduce yourself a bit to listeners and give us the backstory and how Bookalicious came to be?
Well, thank you, and I'd be happy to do all of that. So hi everyone. As Stephanie said, I'm Lea Anne Borders, and I have a company by the name of Bookelicious. Bookelicious is a website, and what we do best, I think, is we make real-time personalized book recommendations for kids, and they're based on their individual interests to match them with books that they'll be really excited to read. And the way we do that is by having them play a game. Kids build what we call a bookmoji. It's basically an avatar that you get to dress up and accessorize. And you choose things like costumes. You get to add pets and accessories like sporting equipment or musical instruments, all of which reflect who the child is and what the child likes. And while those choices are being made, we get to make book recommendations that pop up on your own personal bookshelf that reflect those interests. So it's a really fun it's a fun concept. I think it's a labor of love, and I'm excited you like it, and we get to talk about it today.
I love it. I've created my own bookmoji. I love my little bookmoji. And I feel like no matter how old you are, whether you're 6 or you're 10 or you're 21 or 62, like the idea of just having fun creating something that represents you and then having your books see you and connect with you. Oh, it's just the best. I truly love the process. I can't wait to talk about those bookmojis a little bit more. What gave you the idea to launch Bookalicious?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, a few different things. One, between my husband and I, we have three girls, and definitely experiences as a parent played into it. Back volunteering in the school library and reading at home. And one of the big aha moments for me was discovering that our girls did not like the books that I liked. They liked the books they liked. And
Oh, yes.
right. So that was a big deal. I also had the privilege for about 10 years of serving on the boards of a couple of different nonprofits that were focused on literacy. And I learned a lot about the importance of high interest books and access and choice, how important choice is in that whole, concept of learning who you are as a reader and finding those books that resonate. And I guess the third piece of it, which I don't know that a lot of people know this, but my husband and brother-in-law founded a book company once upon a time by the name of Borders Books. And I assume you still remember
I
Borders.
do. I do.
Yeah.
I could still picture the two stores I used to go to often.
Right, right. Well, and it's funny, like my husband and I used to go on date night to Borders too. It was just, a fun. Well, I mean, bookstores are magical, so it was just
Yeah.
a great place to go. One of the really cool things that they did um, was they built this inventory management and book buying system that allowed them to actually customize the collection of books for each store to the community where they were located.
Mm.
So you wouldn't, I mean, it wasn't quite like a Starbucks where you would go in and you would know that you could get your your caramel macchiato or whatever it was. You actually had a different collection depending upon where you were. And we thought, wouldn't it be incredible to take the next step and personalize books to the individual reader, and of course understanding that for kids especially, the experience needed to be fun in order to make it stick. We thought, let's make a game out of it and make those book connections.
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite things to do, whether I was an educator working with little people or now as a university educator working with teachers who want to become teachers, or just people that I meet at the grocery store or in the doctor's office. My favorite thing is to figure out what book could be the next right book for them. I'm constantly asking, what are you reading lately? What are you doing? Oh, have you read this book? There is something magical, as you said, about a bookstore, but there's something even more magical about what happens in that bookstore or in that bookish context when you can match that reader with a book that they are ready for, that they need next, that they would enjoy, whatever it is. I just can't, explain the magic that happens. And when you put such a fun aspect to it, it just sends kids to reading even more, which I feel like Bookelicious does so well is get that hook to get them in and show themselves to you so that you can show them the books that they need next.
Yeah, exactly. And what we thought from the beginning, there's so many books out there, and making that connection, it can be hard sometimes, and especially for educators. I volunteered in the library. I saw that we had a fantastic librarian at the school where our girls went, and you could see, I mean, they had maybe 35 minutes. They did a read aloud. The kids had to check their books in, they had to check their books out. There was so much going on. And so how do you have those, 5, 10, 15 minutes to have a conversation with each child and find out, what do they like? What are they interested in? What have they read before? All those questions that are so important to help giving that guidance to like what is the exact right book. And so we thought, this would be a great tool to help librarians, help teachers make those connections quickly, because the child can build their bookmoji, they can create a wish list, and
Mm.
they can share it with the librarian. And even if not all of the books on the list are right there in the library, it's still a clue to who the child is and what they like.
Right. So tell us about what happens after that bookmoji. They get to personalize it, so it looks like them. It represents who they are, what they like, what their hobbies are. What happens next? They get the book recommendations and what could they do? Where could they go? How do they get them?
Well, so a few different things. One is that, we love to start with the book recommendation, but we don't expect that just by saying, okay, here's 12 books, for example, you should love these 12 books. That doesn't necessarily mean that those are the 12 books that are perfect for them. So, what we've done is we've created all these links and ways to help kids browse and search and learn how to become really discriminating. So, let's say, as an example, a child They pick the Tyrannosaurus Rex as their pet. So we're going to, I mean, this is not a surprise, we're going to make a recommendation that has a book that features a dinosaur, in fact, hopefully a Tyrannosaurus, right? But when they open up to check out that book, they'll see a preview. We just like kind of, usually look inside, see what it looks like, get a feel for it. But we're also going to have links underneath that take you to all the dinosaur books that are appropriate, developmentally appropriate for, say, a second and third grader, if that's the age of the child who's using the site. And then we've gone to the trouble, this is actually another idea that we borrowed from Borders. They were really great at organizing their books so that you could go right in and find what you were looking for. And they also went to the trouble of, they started, I don't know if you know this, but they started in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And that was a college town. So all these wonderful, well-educated folks looking for a, part-time job in a bookstore. And so they had individuals that kind of owned the sections, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And they were really knowledgeable. So if you were looking for a biography or you were looking for a cookbook or whatever it was, you could go and there was someone who's really good at saying, like this is my favorite new Ina Garten or whatever it was, and sharing that. So we organized our curation in a similar way so that we actually have people that own all of the animals books or own all of the action adventure and mystery books to try to help, so that we can really find out what the best books are. And then we've organized everything topically. So you can go in, you can start in animals, and then you can go from animals to mammals, and then you can go from mammals to rodents, and from rodents to squirrels. And then you see all the universe squirrel books. So you can look that way. Or you can search, you can search for squirrel. And it's amazing actually how many squirrel books are out there. There's a lot. So you can find it that way. And so we've done as much as we can to figure out, how to find the absolute right book. Like what do you like about it, and then find that. So now we've identified a book, right? So I guess your question is, so then what? Like how do you get that book? Is that kind
Yes.
of, yeah.
Yes. Although I just had so much fun thinking about the wonderful rabbit holes we could fall down into the search process
Yeah.
of your website. Yes.
It's pretty exciting. And as like right now we have 45,000 titles on the Bookelicious site. Um, as we've become a slightly more mature company, we've been able to add more and more specificity to how we make book recommendations, which is really fun. I mean, don't get me started on like all the Taylor Swift books. I mean, that's like so fun to explore. That's a really fun rabbit hole. So now you've identified some books. What we recommend for kids next is that they create a wish list. Super easy, just click on a button. And so that they now have something that, it can live on a smartphone, or it can be printed out, and you can take it somewhere. So you can do a few things. One, if you are a child, then hopefully, you're there because your parents have clicked all the correct permissions and all those good things. And so they can certainly buy the book from us, which we'd be thrilled, of course, if they did. But we want access to be part of this. And so one of the things we've done is maybe a little unusual for a retailer is we have a button that you can click on to buy the book, but we also have a button to borrow the book. And what that does is it helps you find the nearest public library where that book is located. So you can bring your list in so you can know ahead of time that that book's there. Or you know what, you can just go on a like a field trip with your mom or dad, go to the bookstore and bring your or go to the I shouldn't say go to the bookstore. No, I went to buy from
I
Bookalicious,
from
but go to the library and bring your list and share it with the librarian, and she can help you.
Mhm. That's why I love Bookalicious even more than the other reasons I've already talked about, because yes, you are a bookseller, and yes, we want people to buy the books from you to keep this amazing service going. That is the only way that you can keep bringing it to kids. but access is incredibly important. So to make that process easy for a family that may not be able to purchase those books, but still wants to surround their child with books over the summer, that right there just elevates Bookalicious to the highest, I think, mountains for me and the work that you do with kids and books. So thank you
Oh.
for that very, very important piece.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you. I mean, when we started the company, I spent a lot of time researching. I like to call myself a recovering lawyer. I spent a lot of time, many years professionally as a lawyer, but I did learn a lot about research as part of that profession. And reading volume is key. So of course we want people to buy books from us because, as you said, that's how we, you
Right.
know, stay in business. But it takes a lot of books to really build a strong reader, and we want to do everything we can to provide that volume.
Yeah. Which is an important segue, I think, to a big part of what today's episode is, which is keeping kids reading over the summer. And I know if you could browse social media right now, you could look at multiple feeds, and I think the popular thing to do right now is create your bucket list and create your summer wish list. And this is the perfect activity to do with a child or as a family at the start of the summer to create your book emoji and to create that wish list around what you could read either on your own or together over the summer. And I know that summer reading is important to you, to Bookalicious, to the lineup that you have. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of summer reading and the role that you think Bookalicious plays in that as we head into the actual summer season?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, as a parent, I think it's really important to know that having books in the home is one of the strongest predictors of academic success.
Yeah.
And of course, also the kids are much more likely to read books that they've chosen themselves. So those are kind of founding tenets of what Bookalicious is all about. And then of course, I think this goes without saying, it's just common sense, but one of the best ways to get better at something is to practice, right? And that of course includes reading. And practice is particularly important over the summer, especially for younger kids who are still learning to read. And that's because of what you just referred to, which is the summer slide, which is basically this concept that when kids are on summer break, if they don't engage in learning, they can lose, I think it's as much as 20% of the skills that they acquired, during that past school year. And that puts them at a real disadvantage when they start school again in the fall. So the good news is that there have been a bunch of studies that have found that summer slide can be countered if kids read, I think it's as few as like 5 books
Yeah.
over the summer. And so that's where Bookalicious can really help, is finding those books and keeping kids reading over the summer.
Yeah. As an educator, I used to see this firsthand. You can tell when you come back to school the kids that were able to have access to books over the summer and the kids that weren't. And it did give such an advantage over starting a new grade level when things are getting more difficult for their cognitive skills, along with keeping that reading identity going over the summer. It just makes reading more enjoyable too. There's a summer reading is a unique season for reading, I think, for kids and adults. And as a college professor now, like I share that research with my teachers to be Richard Allington and Miguel Franzen. So much research that says just a couple of books is all we need. And what better way to do that than books that they can read, but books that they want to read, right? We want to
Yeah.
hook them. We want them to love and adore books as much as we do. And the summer, I think, too, provides an opportunity to read books without as many strings attached, without some so-called work. And I'm using air quotes, listeners, that sometimes happens in schools when we read books as part of a classroom. This is kick your feet up, get in the hammock, or roll the towel out on the ground and just sink into some really enjoyable reading. And if they've gone through the process with Bookalicious, there's a very good chance they are going to enjoy those books and feel seen and heard and be able to connect to what they are reading.
Oh yeah, and there's so many great books that are out there right
Yeah.
now, and so many that are amazing. I mean, that's one of the reason, yes, we use technology, but we also have a whole team of curators, and those curators are almost all former or current teachers and librarians. So they also have that knowledge of, what kids like. But they do their homework to find out, what's great out there, what's the newest and coolest. Because summer is an amazing time to read.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to my own summer reading season for sure.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Now, what are some of the books that you might recommend? 45,000 titles. Give us a couple.
Yeah, I have a couple to recommend. So why don't we start with picture books, because there's some wonderful picture books that are coming out that are, kind of summer themed or just fun for the summer. One of my favorites that came out just a few weeks ago is Don't Trust Fish. It's written by Neil Sharpson, and it has awesome illustrations by Dan Santat. It's hilarious, especially if you like picture books. I don't know. I like mine with a side of sarcasm, that something that both kids and parents are going to laugh at. This book has fish and the beach and the ocean, and it's funny and super appealing. And I think it's recommended for kids age 4 to 7. So it's a great read aloud and just a fun picture book. The other one that I really like is Cranky Crabby Crow Saves the World. And that is written and adorably illustrated by Corey Tabor. It's another really funny book. Crow is cranky and crabby, and he keeps telling his friends that he doesn't have time to play with them. And, the mystery is why. And it might be because Crow is busy saving the world. So, Cranky Crabby Crow is one of those books that, like, say, in fact, like if you were a kid using Bookalicious, you might be dressing up as a superhero for your book emoji, or indicating that like picking a bird as your pet. You might be interested in space. Maybe you're an astronaut. All those things come into play with this book. It's super cute, and it's recommended for kids age 4 to 7.
Okay. I love that both of those are new to me and new to the podcast. So thank you. Keep going.
And they're really fun. Okay, so when you get into the older kids, there's this term, and you know it as an educator, the idea of a middle grade novel, or a middle, and it's kind of a broad spectrum. So one of the ones that I love, this is definitely kind of mid to upper elementary, is it's not super new, but it's new in the sense that it won the Newbery this year, and of course is by the amazing Aaron and Trotta Kelly. The book is The First State of Being. Have you read that one, Stephanie?
Yes, I love the book. I love her. I love it.
It's such a great book. So the story is about a 12-year-old, his name's Michael, and his friend slash babysitter, Gibby. They meet this kid named Ridge, who is a semi-accidental teenaged time traveler who's arrived from the future, and he's not entirely sure how to get back. The book is perfect for kids who like to read about time travel. It has lots of elements around friendship. It also has some more serious themes around things like anxiety, especially, which I found really entertaining, kind of like a flashback, worries about the potential catastrophe from Y2K. Do you remember Y2K?
Yes. The
Yeah.
world is gonna end.
So for your younger listeners, this was the concern that all of our computer systems were going to crash because old systems hadn't, I think they were using like 2 digits or something for the year. So when you got to the year 2000, it was going to be 00. And what did that mean? Is that 1900? Is that
Right,
2000?
right.
So luckily we're all still here. So clearly,
Clearly, we're good.
clearly Y2K did not turn out to be the disaster that it was. But it's a great book. So many interesting elements that I mean, I'd encourage adults to read it. And in fact, that's always a fun thing too, right? Reading along with your kids.
Absolutely.
And then let's see. How about a couple graphic novels? You want a couple graphic novels?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I have two, one that skews a little younger, one that skews a little older. The first one for maybe I think it's, a little bit younger, but I think has a pretty broad appeal is Gabby Torres Gets a Billion Followers. It's written and illustrated by Angela Dominguez. Gabby is a 9-year-old with a very creative inner voice. She's constantly imagining all the wonderful things that she can do to dazzle her friends and her family and her peer group, who all belong to this group called the Sea Musketeers. It's a volunteer group dedicated to protecting oceans and beaches. This book is perfect for kids who like stories about friendship. It's told with a lot of humor. And of course, the graphic illustrations are great, and it's recommended for kids 6 to 9. And then the other one, which I really, really like, is Link and Head Sharks and Minnows. And this is a new series. I think the first book just came out maybe a year ago. Lincoln Head Heroes by a Hair. It's written by and illustrated by Jared and Jerome Pumphrey, who are brothers. Um, Sharks and Minnows comes out July 1, and it's about Lincoln Head, two brothers who also have very active imaginations. These kids are on summer vacation. They're at the ocean, but it gets cut short. They end up back in their neighborhood, but they want to continue their aquatic adventures. And so they do that by creating their very own neighborhood swim team, except that their team engages in events like deep sea treasure hunting and supersonic water walking. So
Ooh. Perfect for summer reading.
yeah, it's awesome. And that's recommended for kids aged 8 to 12.
Okay.
And then the last one I have, if you'd like, is my current obsession for a novel in verse. And one thing I'll say about novels in verse, they often tackle really serious themes. And this book that I'm going to recommend is called The Trouble with Heroes. It's by Kate Messner. It does this extremely well. The main character is struggling with the loss of his father and also trying to understand the ramifications of 9/11 and the COVID pandemic. It's definitely recommended for kids on the upper end of the age range, like 9 to 14. The storyline is about a young boy named Finn. He's a rising eighth grader if he can make up for the work he didn't finish in seventh grade and actually move on up to eighth grade, because otherwise he's failing. He's also sad and angry because his dad, who is this heroic firefighter, died a couple of years before the story begins. Finn gets caught kicking over a headstone in a cemetery. And it turns out that the headstone belongs to this legendary local mountain climber. And so Finn has to make reparations. And the reparations turn out, it's pretty cool, to be climbing all 46 Adirondack high peaks in a single summer. And he has to do it in the company of the dead mountain climber's dog, Seymour. So, isn't that
I
great?
have to read this one. I live in upstate New York. We hike those mountains. I love Kate Messner, but this one was one that is still on my TBR. I am moving it up. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so good. And Kate apparently, from what I've read, she is actually, I think they call themselves 46ers. She's
Yes.
actually, I believe, one of those who's climbed all the peaks in the Adirondacks. The book is funny, it's sensitive, it's interesting. It's great for kids that like stories about like hiking or outdoors and dogs and family. But there's also this whole cool thread about baking cookies and recipes in it. So it's
Oh,
got something for
fun.
everyone. It's a beautiful book.
This is why I love talking books with people because you have your books that you know and love. I have my books that I know and love. You're surrounded by books. I am blessed to have a book podcast, and yet many of these titles that you have suggested are new to me. And now I get to just go down another bookish rabbit hole of all of these books. So thank you for bringing these titles and especially bringing me titles that I didn't know. Not that you knew that, but I'm very happy to have a new set to take into my summer reading.
Well,
As
I mean, same to you because before we started chatting, you recommended a couple of great titles that were not on my radar screen either. So thank you.
oh gosh, you're welcome. I will collect these titles and listeners, I will make sure that the titles and I love putting the book covers in the show notes as well because there's just something about seeing them. I'll make sure that all of these find their way into the notes and link back to you at Bookalicious. So thank you for
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, beyond the books, Bookalicious also has authors who come
Yes.
and who chat, and you have these series. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that before we start to wrap up the episode, because you have a wonderful lineup.
Oh my gosh. I pinch myself sometimes when I look at this lineup for next year. So we offer virtual author events, and they're not just the authors, although the authors are obviously at the draw because they're so incredible, but you also get books with them. And they're, I think, very reasonably priced. You get five hardcover copies. You can either get five copies of the latest and greatest title to share out across the school to get kids reading, or we also offer an author collection, we call it, which is like lots of different books by the same author, so you can get a real feel for the beauty and creativity of what these creatives have developed. And we sell them in packages, so you can get just one event, all the way up to planning for a whole year across all the different grade bands. You can get 12 events, and we have, oh my gosh, we got Lauren Long, the author of so many, incredible illustrator of so many books. Like that, one of his latest is the Yellow School Bus, or the Yellow Bus rather, and then of course Home. Erin and Trotta Kelly, which I mentioned, of course, First State of Being is so fantastic, but she's also got the great Marisol Rainey series. Oh my gosh, Michaela Goad, she, Caldecott winner, Barry Song, Remember. She's got a brand new one called Moon Song coming out. Jerry Craft, he and Kwame Alexander just wrote J versus K. I think they're out touring. It's a fantastic book, and of course, all of his new kid books are amazing. Peter Brown has, not only all the wonderful Wild Robot books, but there's now a Wild Robot on the Island, the new picture book coming out, which is incredible. Just, kind of brings that story to an even broader age range. Raoul the Third, we have, you may remember him, the illustrator for Stunt Boy. He also has this wonderful Vamos series and a brand new series called The Snips, which is hilarious. Grace Lynn. We have, oh my gosh, so many beautiful books. She's written fiction, nonfiction. Her new one is the Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon. The Pumphrey Brothers, which I mentioned, so the Lincoln Head series, and then they've also. Do you remember the old truck?
I don't. No.
It one of the cutest picture books. I mean, it's actually really moving. It made me cry. It was so great. Check it out sometime. It's really it's wonderful. It's about a truck and the life that it lives, and how its continued service in the lives of others makes a positive difference. And then we also have Tracy Baptiste. I'm sure remember the Jumbies, and then she's got that new Moco Magic series. Min Lee, we've got
Wow.
Real to Me, um, uh, um, Hannah Khan, We Are Big Time, Jarrett Lerner. He's got that new Scare School series. And then we've got Malia Manikea, her new uh, Invisible Island series, and Debbie Michiko Florence, Last Chance Academy, and Jasmine Taguchi. So pretty awesome.
Amazing. That
Yeah.
is amazing. Such a beautiful range. There are some that are, I would say, instantly recognizable. There are some that perhaps they might not know as quickly, but are going to love those books, and such a beautiful, diverse range
Yeah.
of authors and books as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. We feel so fortunate. And the beautiful thing about all of these folks is that they're not only incredible authors and illustrators, but they're also really good at communicating with others, with kids. And so they come through. I mean, yes, it's virtual, but it's also really interactive. They present about, themselves and their process, which is always fascinating. But there's also, an interactive draw along,
Yes.
or a way to, develop a writing project or learn how to create a character. And we always do a lightning round too, which is really fun to get them to answer as many questions as we can from the chat. And we also feature spotlight schools. So if anyone's interested, sign up, because then they get to be part of the whole author event. They get to go on camera and ask questions directly of the author.
Oh, that makes me happy. I love books. You love books. Lots of us love books. When you get to see the author of a book that you loved, when you get to hear them talk about the process, you get to ask them questions. There's just nothing like that. It's like a kid on Christmas kind of feeling when you get to talk to the authors, and to have that available for kids at a young age. Like, talk about boosting their reading identity and their enthusiasm for it. That was one of the things I always loved as a kid. I always loved to bring authors to my school as a teacher. And I feel like it just heightens all the magic that we have been talking about when they get to do that.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's also why for us it's really important that as part of the package, the schools get the books,
Yeah.
because that's what you want, right? Is to make that connection. And whether it's before the event or after the event, reading that book and feeling that excitement, there's nothing better.
No, I agree. I agree. Oh, thank you so much for coming on to and talking about Bookalicious. I know I'm even more excited for my summer reading season, and I know I'm excited to get kids going in theirs, especially with the wonderful books that you've recommended. Tell us where listeners can find Bookalicious online, whether that's with website, social media, anything else you'd like to share with listeners before we wrap up.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So Bookalicious, yes, it's a website, and the easiest way to find it, Bookalicious is a combination of the word book and delicious. So it's Bookelicious. So it's bookalicious.com, pretty easy to find. And the website's free, so feel free to jump on there and check it out, build a bookmoji, and look at the books. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Bookalicious Books, and we're on LinkedIn, Blue Sky. I mean,
Places.
we're out there. We're out there. But yeah, come check us out. I appreciate it.
Well, in addition to links to the books that you shared, I'll make sure to have the website and your social media handles right in the show notes to make that easy to click as well. And listeners, you have to go build your emoji. You have to. It's just so much fun. Once they see and visualize this, if this is new to them, it is something that they will instantly bring to all of the kids in their lives. So I hope that now that the episode is over and you're not driving, you can go to bookalicious.com and check out that bookmoji tool. Oh, Leanne, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for coming today, but for just doing all that you do to help kids become readers and love reading and ultimately make a difference with reading. It's an honor to be able to share your story here, and I'm so glad that I've been a part of it. Even if you didn't know from the very beginning.
Well, I do now, and I really appreciate it, and it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you loved what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of KidLit Love. Thanks for listening.